These grays are just disrespectful. Here I am trying to be cute, and they gotta jump out and be seen. My mother didn't get grays until she was like in her 60s. But here I am, all grayed and streaked up. Few things that are different about me and my mom. You know, sometimes dads get a bad rap. It might be your mama who messed you up too. Daddies get a bad rap. Sometimes it really is your mama who messed you up and gave you the trauma. Whether dad was present or not doesn't matter as much as the dynamic between you and your mom. So our mothers are our first nurturers. They are our first nourishers. They are our first teachers. And how your mom operates with you from in the womb to in the crib to as you grow up and start to explore life impacts your identity, what you believe about yourself, and what you believe others believe about you too. So when I hear from women who are sucking at relationships and who are failing and flawed and just cannot seem to get it right, they often blame their daddy issues. They often blame their daddy trauma. Either dad wasn't there, or dad was physically there but emotionally absent, or dad may have harmed them in some way when it comes to intimacy or abuse or control. And while all of that plays a pivotal role in how you identify with men and what you believe about men, what your mama did means even more. Specifically when we're talking about Black women and women of color, because we grow up in communities where the mothers kind of run the household, tell everyone what to do, and set the tone for things, even when there is a father present. And so many women are dealing with mothers who are overly critical because as Black women and women of color, we tend to believe that women are more responsible and that women hold more weight when it comes to governing what happens within the family dynamic. I'm sure that you've heard, or you may have experienced yourself, that you growing up had more responsibility than your male siblings, right? The girls have to keep the house clean, they have to do the cooking, they have to make sure that the brothers are acting properly, they have to show up in a certain way so that mom looks good. And because mothers are always in this hyper-protective state, they want to make sure that they're being perceived properly and you're being perceived in a way where the world will treat you well. But even when they have the best intentions, they can hinder your self-expression, your self-confidence, and your self-worth. And so when we talk about the issues that are really impacting how you're showing up in relationships, that mother wound is a major and a key factor. So let's talk about some of the ways that the mother wound shows up in your life as an adult and in your dating relationships. If you had an overly critical mother who judged your appearance, who judged your speech, who judged anything about you, you learn that you're always doing something wrong. And so before you make any decision, you're questioning whether or not it's the right decision. You don't trust your own decision making. And that then shows up in the dating space as you not being able to trust other people. So many women say, oh, I have trust issues because people have wronged me. But no, you have trust issues because your mother taught you that you can't trust yourself to make the right decision. And that's what happens when you have a mom who has been overly critical or overly judgmental of you growing up. Another way that the mother wound shows up in your adulthood and in your relationship spaces is if you had a mom who never took accountability for her actions, who always managed to displace and put the blame on you. If she's upset, if she's angry, if she's sad, if she's rude, if she's aggressive, it's because of something that you did. You kids are always stressing me out. I never get a moment to myself. I always have to cook and clean and do these things for you. instead of actually taking accountability for the life that she's created, for the choices that she's made, or even for her time management. And what you internalize in that space is that you are the reason why things are not showing up right. It's your fault that life isn't what it's supposed to be, and that you are responsible for the happiness of your partner. When you are an adult woman seeking partnership with an adult male, if you're moving through life thinking that you are the only responsible party, you will never be able to attract another partner who's responsible or who's accountable. And then that means that the partners who do come into your life, they're gonna run amok, they're gonna cause chaos, and they're going to make you feel like it's your responsibility to fix it because it's your fault that they are the way that they are. This mother wound is one of the ones that is particularly dangerous because in your head, you are in this constant state of hypersensitivity and self-blame at the same time. So you are always feeling emotionally vulnerable and emotionally raw, but you have a partner who is not supportive because they know that you are going to take on the responsibility of what's happening. Often mothers who exhibit this type of behavior are overwhelmed, are overworked, and feel underappreciated. But it is never your job as the child to soothe your parents' emotions or to fulfill your parents' emotional needs. And mothers need to understand the damage that they cause their children when they operate like this. And so I want you to be sure and be clear and own the idea that every adult in your life is responsible for themselves, and it's not your job to fix them. Okay? Another way that the mother wound shows up, and this is one of those things that within the Black community and within communities of color is such a norm, right? It is the daughter's responsibility to make sure that the household runs seamlessly and effectively so that when mom comes in, everything is already done. But that's the job of a partner. And you're your mama's daughter, not your mama's man. We often recognize that mothers parentify their children, but mothers also partnerize their daughters. Yes, we see this when it comes to sons. Oh, this is my king. Oh, this is my main squeeze. You know, this is the man in my life. But when mothers do it with daughters, there's a more negative connotation. You now have to be the provider. You now have to be the protector. You now have to be the one who creates ease and comfort for her, which is really different from that dynamic of partnerizing your son. It's putting him on a pedestal. For daughters, it's really beating you down in a way that says, you have to make this space comfortable for me, where it really should be the other way around. A mother's role and responsibility in her children's life is to nurture, is to nourish, is to build up, and is to pour into, and to create a foundation that allows you to show up as your full and whole self. But when we get down to it, the mothers that are doing this have their own unresolved traumas and have their own emotional healing to do that can also be attributed to their own mother wounds. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, I feel like this may apply to me and my mama, I want to give you some key steps that you can start taking now. First with yourself, just to bring about a new level of awareness, then with your mom so that you can try, because you know those mamas don't be wanting to move, but you can try to encourage her to see things from your perspective as well. So the first thing that I want you to do is to take inventory of all of the relationships you have in your life with other women. This is important because it's going to give you clues and it's going to show you how you feel about women, how you value or view womanhood. If you're a woman who has a ton of women friends, you may not think that you have any issue with a mother wound. But look at how you operate in those relationships with your female friends. Are you always trying to save everyone? Are you taking on the blame? Are you not holding them accountable? Are you trying to fix everything so that it's perfect when they show up in your life or in your space? That may be an indication that you have a mother wound. Are you one of those women who says, I don't get along with other women. I'd rather hang out with the guys. It's easier to be around men. You may have a mother wound as well that's creating resistance between you and women in your environment or in your life. So that first step in just simply looking at your relationships with other women and how you feel and operate in those spaces will give you some clues about whether or not there may be an unresolved mother wound. The second thing that I want you to do is to create an idea of what your ideal relationship with your mother would look like. What's the best case scenario? What are some of the things that you would love to do with your mom? What are some of the conversations you'd love to be able to have with her? This is simply for you to understand what would nourish you and nurture you in the relationship you have with your mom so that you can see whether or not these things were present growing up and if they're present now. If they were present when you were growing up and they're present now, that's a sign of you having a healthy relationship dynamic with mom, and you get to kind of check that off and move forward. If you recognize that those things were not present growing up and they're not present now, then there's an indicator that you want to have conversations with mom. We always want to move towards resolution, and in resolving your issues, it's important for you to be bold enough to address those issues with others. Now, you don't get to say what mom does, what mom says when you approach her. She has every right to completely disagree with you, to have her own perspective of your emotional experience. But simply approaching her and sharing your experience of her as a mother with her empowers you to take a stand in your own life. And then that third and final thing that I want you to do is that I want you to allow yourself to live a life that your mother would not approve of. So many women are taught to be good daughters, but not taught how to be good women. And in order to be a good woman, you have to live a life that you are creating, that's based on and aligned with the things that you want for your life and what you want to feel. And you get to be okay in disappointing your parents as an adult sometimes if what you want to do is not aligned with what they want for you. You get to free yourself from the prison of having to think about what mom would say, what mom would think, what mom would want you to do. She's an adult woman who gets to make choices for herself, and so are you. So instead of blaming dad for everything, I want you to split this up 50-50. Yes,